In this section, I'm going to cover basics of HTTP. This section is important because without this knowledge, you wouldn't probably understand most of the node.js codes later on. So let's get started. What is HTTP? HTTP is a protocol for every web application you have, and it has sets of common methods that almost every web application has. And the major HTTP methods are get, post, put, and delete. And I'm going to explain each one of these in details. So let's see some example. So if you go to google.com, it will show you the nice and clean Google page. Alright? But what is going on right now? The question is, what kind of HTTP method that Google is using for the specific URL? Guess which one it is. It is get method. What is get method? Get is basically retrieving data from the server. So when you go to google.com, Google server will search for the particular URL or address and will serve you back with appropriate page, which is the nice and clean Google page. Alright? So just remember, get is equivalent to retrieve data from the server. So let's take a look at another HTTP method example. If you have Facebook, you have probably come across these forms over here. Whenever you enter your data in the box and you press login, alright, if you enter your data and you press login, which HTTP method you think it will use? It is using, I'll give you guys a few seconds to think. Which one you think? It is using post method, alright? So after you have sent your data to the server, it will redirect you to another page, which in this case, profile page. Alright? But what exactly is post? Post is basically sending data to the server. So whenever you type in something like the email and you want to send to another person, alright? So just remember, post is sending data to the server. Then the server will do some logic to save it in a database. So let's move on to the next HTTP method. If you press this button, I'm sorry, it's a little bit, the arrow, I forgot to delete it, but I'm just gonna explain to you guys what it is. So if you press this button, add a profile, alright? I'm using Twitter as an example, and this is my Twitter account, so feel free to follow. So again, if you press this button, edit profile, and it will prompt you a form field which holds my current username. Let's say I decided to change this, and I clean it off, and I decided to change this to another name, to a slightly better name. Alright? By the way, I'm a fan of Star Wars. So just want to let you guys know. So what kind of HTTP methods you think it is using? It is using put. So put is basically kind of the same as post, but the difference is that it is replacing the data in the database to a new data that you have sent. If you go back to the slides, alright? So this is my current username, and then I clean it off and I change it into a new name, and I want to press save. It kind of replaced the data in the database with the one that I sent, right? But you can still use post method to update the data. There's not much difference between it, and I will show you guys later during the coding session. And the last HTTP method is, you know what it is already. It is a delete. I won't show an example because it's pretty much self-explanatory. So what is delete method? It is basically deleting the current data in the database. So that's it. Alright, very simple. And I want to show you guys how you would implement the HTTP methods in node.js and Express.js later on. So pretty much app.get, app.post. Pretty simple, right? There are two ways to write a HTTP method. It's either using app or router. But you don't need to understand the code for the time being. I just want you guys to understand and to see how we're actually going to implement it. You don't need to understand it, all right? So there are word synonyms. Just want to let you guys know, URL is equivalent to routes. You see, this is URL and it is equivalent to the code on the right side. So nothing to be confused. It's very simple. Later on, once we write more URL or routes to be more specific, you will understand, oh, this is how it actually been done. So don't worry. But sometimes you have heard the word API or REST, right? The meaning of API is application programming interface. And REST is representational of state. Nothing fancy. It is just basically just a URL. What kind of codes do you think we will write if someone asks you to write an API? Let's say you work in a company later on. It is basically just this. It looks the same, and the only difference that I added an extra parameter, which is API. That's it. But what is the real major difference, right? As you can see, this code on the left side is responding with a web page. Let's assume that index HTML is Google. So this is on the left side, this is server-side rendering. This is not API, right? Normal, you are just responding with a web page. On the right side, it is actually an API. It is responding with the data, not a web page. It is good to use an API when it comes to writing a native mobile application, but I won't get into that. Just want to let you guys know, API is just data, alright? So the conclusion for this epic HTTP saga is that at the end of the day, you will only write URL, which is node.js plus express, a database operation, which is MongoDB and plus Mongoose. Mongoose is the library. I will explain to you guys later on, don't worry. And last is a front-end code, which is HTML, CSS plus jQuery. If you have mastered this tree section, URL is basically the back end of your code, and database operation is MongoDB. Front end is the front end, the client side, which is using HTML, CSS, jQuery, and some custom JavaScript. You could pretty much build anything you could ever imagine, and that is really cool and amazing, alright? So stay healthy and happy coding.